And tonight on the Daily Wrap, will he or won't he? We finally have our answer on whether or not Vice President Joe Biden will run for president. Plus, Donald Trump continues to exceed expectations as one poll shows him far ahead of fellow GOP candidates. And Paul Ryan now seriously considering running for Speaker of the House as long as his demands are met. This is the Daily Wrap, live from New York City. And welcome to the show, everybody. I'm Joe Concha along with Rick Unger. I never have to ask the question again. How do you get your hair to look so full?
Well, I have a wonderful person sitting right outside this room who takes good care of all of us.
Oh, no, not that question. That Joe Biden, whether he's going to run or not, we finally know.
Yeah, we do. You kind of knew it the minute you saw them walk out to the Rose Garden and the president was with him.
Yeah, that was
because there was no way the president was going to be there if he was announcing his candidacy.
That would kind of be an endorsement in that situation.
Yeah, it was an interesting day.
Well, to Mr. Unger's right, we had the authors of the great new book, How to Bag a Rhino. The whiz kids who bought down former House Majority Leader Eric Cantor, Gary Devaney, am I pronouncing that correctly?
Gray Delaney.
Gray Delaney.
You were close.
Yes, and Zach Worrell. We talked a lot before the show. Okay, let's get right to the Daily Download. And will Vice President Joe Biden run or not for president? We just gave that away. He announced his decision from the Rose Garden with his wife and the president by his side.
As my family and I have worked through the grieving process, I've said all along, what I've said time and again to others, that it may very well be that that process, by the time we get through it, closes the window on mounting a realistic campaign for president, that it might close. I've concluded it has closed. But while I will not be a candidate, I will not be silent.
All right, so Uncle Joe is out, but not without taking a swipe at Hillary Clinton. Although Biden didn't call her out by name, he did take a dig at the now likely nominee for calling Republicans the enemy at the last debate.
I don't believe, like some do, that it's naive to talk to Republicans. I don't think we should look at Republicans as our enemies. They are our opposition. They're not our enemies. And for the sake of the country, we have to work together. As the president said many times, compromise is not a dirty word. But look at it this way, folks. How does this country function without consensus?
All right, Rick Unger. We talked about it in the open. Let me ask you this. Is this better for Biden ultimately because now at least he could go out somewhat on top? In other words, if he ran again and was 0 for 3 running for the presidency, then his legacy is, you know what, the guy who was always the bridesmaid and never the bride.
You know what, I think people have failed to really grasp what this whole thing was about for him. Aside, look, of course he wanted to be president. But you know what, and usually we're kidding about this, but I'm actually serious this time. As somebody close to his age, I know what it's like to have spent your whole life being active and doing something, and here he is realizing that in a year, he has nothing to do anymore. Yeah. And that is very, very difficult for a man like him to take. And that would have been the reason why he would have run. The reason he would not run is, I think those of us who pay attention to it realize that over the past 10 days, that road to success was becoming a very, very narrow one.
You make a great point in that my dad's 72.
Yeah.
And he went from being a CFO of a company, and now he still works full-time, but he doesn't have that great responsibility of a big company CFO. He handles accounting for a smaller company, and that keeps him busy 5 days a week, 8 hours a day. To be president, all that stress, and he would be 81 by the time he's done.
I think he could handle it. You know, age has changed quite a bit. I think he could have handled that. But I just think that that's really what was driving him. Is, you know, it's hard to face being done and not knowing what's coming next. You know, I posited the question earlier today. The Constitution and the 22nd Amendment does not limit the number of terms a vice president can serve. And there's something for Hillary to think about.
That's something very interesting to think about. That kind of ties into what I was saying. Maybe he doesn't want the responsibility of being president and all the stress that goes with that, but VP, continue the same job.
I think he knew that he couldn't win, as you looked at the numbers and the roadmap.
Well, that's the thing, Gray, right? I mean, it seems like at best he would split the Hillary vote. Not that Bernie Sanders would then catapult the victory, but maybe he just saw the numbers and said, you know what, and he said it, I don't see a path to victory here. Then maybe that was it, just the math didn't add up.
Well, he would have been vying for the same votes that Hillary Clinton was vying for.
Yep.
And the Democrats know that Bernie Sanders is not electable, even though a surprising percentage of the American people do not identify socialism as a bad word. But Bernie Sanders is not electable in this time. So I think that Joe Biden did what's best for the Democratic Party. Who knows if there was a few...
Well, I think we talked about this a bit earlier. He also knew that if he took enough votes away from Hillary, what you would do is go into a convention with nobody as the winner.
Yeah.
And if that was going to be the scenario, Hillary has so locked up the superdelegates.
Yeah.
And, you know, look, Republicans can say all they want like they have all day. We really are happy. We'd rather run against Hillary than Joe Biden. That's nonsense. The idea that they could run against a third term of Obama is their fondest dream come true. And the Democrats would have known that too. Hillary would have, assuming nothing terrible happens to Hillary, which could, Hillary would have left the convention anyhow as the nominee.
I wrote a column today that says that Hillary, Biden, and Trump were the winners. Because Trump, if he ever had to face Biden in a debate, that wouldn't go quite as well as it would if he go against Hillary. He fights pretty tough. And your losers are Ed Henry of Fox, who said that this would be happening, and
Billy
cable
Crystal.
news, right? Yeah, that's right. All right, Bill Crystal, and cable news in general loses because now, as a conservative, Cheryl Atkinson.
I'm just
okay,
saying,
Now you're just rubbing it in.
Now, who here did not make such a prediction? Neither of us.
I wouldn't commit to it completely.
And
you were on the fence back and
all
forth.
along because
your indecisiveness paid off here, no question about it.
Usually does.
Yes. So, Zach, here's my point. We've lost the entertainment value. But as a conservative, I think a lot were rooting for Biden to jump in because now Hillary at least would have to fight for the nomination somewhat, and now it looks like she has a very clean path to that nomination.
Yeah, that's my interpretation. Joe Biden made the smart decision not only for himself, but also for the Democratic Party. Think of it this way. The last thing Democrats want is a food fight going against the food fight that is the Republican primary right now. And the other thing is Biden will not go down, his last move in politics won't be losing.
Yep.
Right.
So in a lot of ways, Biden is the winner, and in winning, he helped the Democrat Party win too.
You know, it's fast, just quickly, it's fascinating. If you look at some of these polls, Hillary's firewall is very much South Carolina. I mean, she could lose Iowa, she could lose New Hampshire. With Joe Biden in the race, she was in a fight for the black vote there. With him out of the race, she has it 80% to 20%. Yeah. That tells you everything.
Yeah, huge. So let's talk about those polls. Could one factor behind the vice president's decision not to run be the fact that Hillary is really having a great post-debate surge in the polls? An NBC Wall Street Journal poll finds that Clinton's standing among Democrats has jumped 7 percentage points in 1 month. At the same time, Sanders has dropped 6 points, and Vice President Joe Biden, now no longer in the race, dropped 2. And in the latest ABC Washington Post poll, Clinton makes a huge 12-point leap, mostly at Vice President Biden's expense, while Bernie remains flat. For those that say the debate was won by Sanders, they were clearly wrong. Did Biden realize he couldn't compete, I guess is the question. Know who else loses here, by the way? ABC, NBC, CBS, PBS, and Univision. You know what they have in common? They have the next five Democratic debates. And who wants to watch a coronation? Right. Now you got Jim Webb out of there who only complained about time, but at least that was somewhat entertaining. Right. And it's Chafee, O'Malley, who desperately wants to be vice president, and Bernie, who won't attack her. Ugh.
But Bernie's funny to watch. I mean, it's interesting to watch the kooky old man. You know, I'm a supporter of Ron Paul. Bernie is sort of the crazy...
Ron or Rand?
Ron.
Ron, okay.
And Bernie is the crazy old uncle that everybody likes to talk to but hates getting the phone call from, you know? And so, you know, nobody cares what Hillary has to say, but when you got Bernie Sanders spouting off about all sorts of nonsense left and right, not making much sense, it's fun to watch. I think that they could use Bernie Sanders to puff their ratings kind of like
That's
Trump.
Like the opposite of Rick. He's the crazy uncle you like to get phone calls from because he's amiable and he's entertaining. And
he's got great hair.
One thing about Joe Biden,
great hair.
When has Joe Biden ever proven that he's a strong candidate? It's just like because he's next in line, he should
he's
run.
certainly proven it in his home state. He may not have proven it as a national
I think
candidate.
that's what Gray's point was. Nationally, he's 0 for 2.
Yeah,
So, yeah, no, he hasn't done well in his
Go out on
presidential
top.
effort.
he doesn't come across as presidential. He comes across as someone that's good just playing second fiddle.
And that shows you
I
how
might
weak
disagree,
the
but I take
Democratic
your point.
bench was this time around, that
Right.
Joe Biden was considered a savior to some. Anyway, share your thoughts on Vice President Biden's decision not to run for president by going to newsmaxtv.com/comments. Coming up, Donald Trump still exceeding expectations. Will he be the GOP nominee?